should ever have a big money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government.
Welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live. Today is September 7th, 2022. We are your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. We cover the Bitcoin news, culture, memetic warfare. We will show you why only Bitcoin can give you true financial sovereignty. Today we have a very special show lined up. We have the CEO of Start9 Labs. We have Matt Hill. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, doing good. I actually just retweeted that this is happening right now. So, here we go. Here I am. What's up?
Awesome. Well, we're super to have you on the show. We're going to have a really interesting discussion, kind of adding to the discussion that we once had when Matt came on the show. I think it was a long time ago. But this idea that Bitcoin nodes could possibly be a Trojan horse for something. We're going to explore that idea in a second. But I want to say hi to my legendary co-host. How you doing, Opti?
What's up, Nico? How you doing, Matt? Feeling good today. Excited for today's show. And also, we said yesterday about Bitcoin Freedom Day, and I did the math. Everyone's been saying 1 year since El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. But guys, it's 52,560 blocks. Come on, get it right. This is block height maxis over here. Come on. You guys are still Gregorian calendar maxis. Not going to make it. Not going to make it.
What do you have for us on the culture, Opti?
Oh, yeah, on the culture. So I'm going to double down. We've been covering a bunch of themes. And so I scrolled Matt Hill's Twitter, and I got some cool tweets and some cool ideas from Start9 and stuff that we can add on the themes that we've been talking about on the show for the last couple of months. So I think it's going to be a good show, guys.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's start the show. Let's do the numbers. Number time. Brought to you by NODL. They make some of the best Bitcoin nodes. Run your own version of Bitcoin Core, the Lightning Network, Whirlpool, and Dojo, all from the comfort of your own home. Remember, guys, if you don't run your own Bitcoin node, you're trusting someone else's. And if you're a digital nomad, you have no excuse, because now you could run a NODL through a virtual private server. Visit nodl.eu today. All right, guys, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 18,896, sats per dollar 5,292, block height 753,053, reachable Bitcoin nodes 15,027, blocks to the halvening 86,947, halving estimate April 22nd, 2024, total Lightning Network capacity 4,703, capacity value 88 million US dollars, realized monetary inflation 1.78%, still taking the US dollar to school, market capitalization 361 billion US dollars. Anyways, today I want to talk about this absolute clown world video coming out of the EU. We've been covering this topic quite a bit on this show. Here is the president of the EU. Her name is like Ursula, some crazy name, but look, we are at that point in the movie where they're implementing price controls, or a form of price controls, or with basically power controls. The quote there, right, that I wanted to focus on is flatten the curve. Where have we heard that before in the last 2 years? And how did that turn out, right? So this is absolutely crazy. These are the same people that are going after Bitcoin for environmental reasons. That same crazy energy policy where we're coming from. The show is like, yeah, burn more fossil fuels. Is it more important to more virtue signal or heat your home? And I think Europe is going to learn that very quickly. And is that going to lead to an inevitable recession, right? Is that going, because at the end of the day, right, if people can't power their homes, that means people can't power their businesses. That means businesses shut down. We've showed you pictures. And here's Michael Burry. He's the one that predicted the 2008, crisis. Said, look, crypto crash, meme crash, inflation check, 2000 check, 2008 check, 2022 check. So he's obviously He's referring to something. Is this the beginning of it? I don't know. We shall see. And I actually tweeted this out the other day, and I think I want to talk about it and where Bitcoin plays into this. I said Europe's energy policy was 100 energy disaster is 100% avoidable. People will literally freeze to death this winter because government sold the public on the false promise of renewables, which cannot replace fossil fuels anytime soon. It goes on to say, well, sending billions to Ukraine, spending billions on renewables is only possible with a money printer, with the end result of a starving and freezing populace. We must separate from state. We must separate money from state, right? I don't think under a Bitcoin standard, these types of policies would be viable. They're only viable because these bureaucrats, these politicians, have an endless supply of money that funds their crazy ideas, whether that is funding a war, right? Funding endless wars, or whether that is funding terrible energy policy. I don't think it would be economical. I don't think it'd be viable under a Bitcoin standard. Anyways, Matt, are we just crazy Bitcoiners? What are your thoughts on all this?
Oh, that's a broad topic to come at openly like that. Look, the policies being pursued by governments and authoritarians worldwide are insane. They're out of touch with reality. And unfortunately, that type of stuff can survive for a lot longer than a lot of people think it can. You can live in an irrational market and an irrational world for quite a while by, essentially taking steroids and, injecting falsehoods into the mindset of the populace. But eventually reality has its say. It's usually not a very gentle say. It usually comes back with a vengeance. And I think that time period is approaching. I try very hard not to give time estimates on anything because I'm always wrong. I always think things are going to happen way before they actually do. I like to think I'm ahead of the curve, but yeah, I don't know when this is going to happen, but there will be suffering.
Yeah. So do you believe Bitcoin can fix this?
I believe Bitcoin is a major part of the solution. Yes.
Okay. So do you believe also in the claim that I made, which is this is the result of fiat money? This is the result of politicians having access to a money printer?
Yeah. In large part, yes. If you go back before the sort of digital age, like if we were to, rewind like 50, 60 years, I would say that was pretty much the only problem was the fact that governments, had control over the money supply. And that we had moved off of a gold standard, and then that in turn facilitated almost every abuse of government was made possible by their ability to fund things through fiat. However, now that we have entered the information age, there is a broader control over information in general that is posing a threat, right? Money is now information, so it is a major piece of the information that is being controlled. But in the information age, it's increasingly important to control all forms of information, which is where you see the battles happening now. It's not just in money; it's in, it's in truth. There's a battle for truth and control over the avenues and storage places of information.
100%, and I think you hit the nail on the head, right? The internet disintermediated information. There was a handful of gatekeepers, or those newspapers, or whatever, back in the day, and now there's the ability through Twitter, through all these social media platforms, to communicate directly to millions upon millions of individuals making their own decisions. I saw this tweet by Jack Posobiec, and I think it was spot on. If the internet existed in 2003, we wouldn't have gone to war with Iraq, because it would have been a lot more difficult to sell the public on the narrative that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction back in the day, right? So it's actually fascinating that you brought that up. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts on all this, brother?
Well, first, I love what Matt said, and I'm going to be less eloquent than that. EU wrecked, rip, F in the chat, guys. Like, man, I literally called Nico this morning and was asking, trying to pick his brain on what's going on, because, I'm seeing this stuff, and I was like, yo, like, what's your thoughts on this? And we were literally saying the same stuff, man. And personally, I'm just concerned for all, the average people out there in Europe that are going to get wrecked this winter, man. Like, the implications that are about to happen this winter are freaking terrifying. And, I'm just glad that I'm in America right now. But as Nico keeps telling me, it's like what's happening in Europe may come to America. So like, don't get too excited, guys. But as the meme goes, go woke, go broke. But I guess we have a new evolution of the meme, and it's go woke, go cold. So like, man, let's just hope that this is like the last pendulum swing until the world starts to wake up to the idea of just how bad of an idea it is to go completely, on renewable energies that aren't nuclear. So we shall see. Fossil fuels are the way. And if you guys really want to have renewable energy, then we need to double down on nuclear energy. But apparently that we still have a lot of loopholes to get to that point. So it looks like we're in for some pain, at least our European brothers. So, I hope you guys stay warm, and I hope it doesn't get as bad as we think it will be, but it's not looking good.
Absolutely. It's not looking good. And the term of the renewables, it's like, look, like, it's not that we're against renewables. It's that like the public was sold that renewable energies in this moment in time was a viable replacement to fossil fuels. And that just turned out to be a lie. And then add the, you couldn't have seen this, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? It just creates this perfect powder keg. That's just, I think that's basically what's happening in Europe right now. But as Matt said, I think Bitcoin in the future could potentially at least incentivize politicians to make better policy decisions. I'll say that. Anyways, let's move on to the news. Daily news. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make some of the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, from node cases to key rings to the vents on the back of your ASIC for air management, and of course the famous 3D printed Bitcoin grenade toy, which comes in any custom color your heart desires. You want it in gold? They make it in gold. And you can take advantage of the promo code down below to get 5% off CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. This is Start9. Matt, first of all, I think we have to preface this. What type on the website says sovereign computing. What type of computing do we have today?
We have cloud computing today. And, for lack of a better term, right? We have centralized intermediated computing, but the most common word to describe that, at least over the last 20 years in popular, technology circles, has been cloud computing. And what cloud computing essentially means is that everything that you're doing on your phone and laptop, those things are essentially remote controls that are accessing a server, a computer that is not your own, right? So the cloud is just somebody else's computer. And that's the computing model that dominates human computer interactions today, is that almost every click you do, every time you use your phone, you are actually just renting space, temporarily renting time on somebody else's computer. And that's how people compute today. That is cloud computing. It has come to dominate the world.
Yeah, and then there's huge cons to that, right? Because it's like, if I wanted to message you, Matt, it's not me and you, me directly messaging you. It's me going to a server and then that server going to you. And then what that allows easy capture by government, because what people don't understand, a lot of people do understand, but a lot of people, I guess, because you don't have to think about this because it's all in the back end, is that there's only a handful of companies that own, to use your words, to own those cloud computing farms, those server farms, right? There's only a handful of them, right? There's Amazon, there's Google, there's Oracle, and go back to, put the politics aside. We don't care about that on this show, but remember January 6th, right? One very popular app at the time was called Parler. And they were literally shut down, I think a week later, for political reasons, for whatever, but they disappeared off the face of the planet because it's exactly what you said, Matt. They weren't using their own infrastructure. They were renting it out from someone else, meaning they were vulnerable. Now, I'm going to connect this with Bitcoin in a second, right? Matt, why is it important to run your own node?
Well, so running your own node specifically for Bitcoin, I can talk about in detail, but then there's this whole idea of running your own server in the broader sense, right? So the one sort of leads to the other. But the importance is that you are no longer dependent on a trusted third party for your general computing needs, right? So for Bitcoin, if you're not running your own node, you are running somebody else's node, or I'll put it, you're using somebody else's node, because there is no such thing as Bitcoin without nodes, right? There's no such thing as, cloud messaging without a server. And so when you use a Bitcoin wallet or you want to transact in Bitcoin, you are using a node somewhere owned by someone. And so therefore you're trusting them to some degree. Sometimes it's more of a critical trust issue than other times, but you are trusting them. You are not independent. You are dependent on somebody else. And dependency is antithetical to freedom and sovereignty. And so if that is your goal, then you got to run your own node. That's all there's to it.
Absolutely. And another thing, Matt, right, is that the way that I see it is that the Bitcoin node is the Trojan horse to sovereign computing. Would you agree to that statement? Disagree? What are your thoughts?
By circumstance, I agree, right? So let's go pre-Bitcoin. This problem still existed, right? Pre-Bitcoin, we were aggressively moving on to third-party cloud infrastructure, which carried an enormous amount of personal and sociological drawbacks. What Bitcoin did was it actually kind of like woke people up. Bitcoin was this like massive innovation in decentralized consensus and in money, quite frankly, that sort of got people thinking in terms of independence and sovereignty, right? Bitcoin was the catalyst that I think our world needed to even get people thinking in terms of independent computing models. Like, I can do things without asking permission. I can do things in a way that cannot be denied. And that is why Bitcoin is so central to like what we are doing. Not only is Bitcoin important for reforming global monetary systems, which is sort of the heart of human society, but it is also the catalyst for reforming global information systems. Bitcoin itself does not solve decentralized information. It solves decentralized consensus, which has been applied to money first and foremost. But there is a broader objective here, which is to remove all third-party trust from the human-computer relationship. And without Bitcoin, I don't know if we could convince people of this, right? It's part of the culture and the marketing, quite frankly, that we can't even get people thinking in this way if it wasn't for Bitcoin. Bitcoin taught people about public key cryptography. It taught them about, self-custody. It like got people thinking about things that they had never thought about before. So now all of a sudden, a personal server ultimately, propagating to a new grassroots internet suddenly becomes possible because Bitcoin paved the path. It showed the way. It set the example.
That is absolutely fascinating, and I agree. I never thought about it that deeply, but I had this moment where, and it was actually seeing your product, right? And you started adding more features that had nothing to do with the Bitcoin, with the Bitcoin now. There's a messaging software, and I was like, wait a second. Running a Bitcoin node and putting up a Bitcoin node is the excuse to you setting up a server. That provided the incentive. Now, that being said, in an ideal world, do you see 10 years from now, for example, do you see a whole other internet? Do you see a video server as well, similar to YouTube? I know that's hard to think about because of the resource requirements today, but we all know that technology is deflationary, right? It just gets cheaper and cheaper over time. Where do you see sovereign computing 10 years from now? Do you see individuals communicating peer-to-peer, right? Maybe your cell phone connects to your server at home, and then from there, your server connects to another server, and then that's how you communicate with people without having to rely on a third party. Where do you see the future of sovereign computing 10 years from now?
You just jumped right to the juicy stuff, the 10 years from now vision. We believe, and we believe that we have reason to believe, that everything that can currently be done in the cloud, centralized, custodial, intermediated, trusted model of personal computing can be replicated in the totally independent, sovereign, decentralized model of personal computing, and that with one exception, right? And that the two can never reach total parity, because the latter, the one that we are promoting, will ultimately require the individual to take some degree, and I mean that big, of responsibility over their own life and property. Meaning, don't lose your password, don't lose your seed phrase, right? Or we might even be able to get a little bit further down that line by using creative multi-sig arrangements, where even if you do screw up, there's a way to recover, okay? But there's no mama and dad to call and say, I fucked everything up, and have them just be like, oh, it's okay because we were in control the whole time anyway, so we just recovered everything for you and you're good to go. That won't exist in the sovereign computing model. So the question that remains open to humanity, which I have not yet determined which way people will go, is, are human beings willing to take a marginal degree of effort and personal responsibility to secure their independence and freedom on this planet? If the answer is no, then what we're doing is futile. No matter how good we make the technology, if people are not willing to keep secure a single piece of information, then we're never going to reach it. But aside from that, we can replicate the entire computing paradigm that currently exists, meaning users will not have to know what a server is. Okay, the experience will be identical to the experience that they have today, meaning I will be able to open up a phone and go to an app store and download a client application, not a server-side application, okay? Forget about the back end here, just the remote control, that these devices in your hands will continue to be remote controls as they are today. Except instead of remoting into somebody else's server and renting space on it where they are now your master and can do all sorts of things like invade your privacy and sell your information and extort you once you've become dependent on their product, instead of that, you will be remoting into your own server in your own home that you actually don't need to know much about, right? What we are creating at Start9 is going to be an experience akin to a router setup today. And in fact, the embassy will be a router in short order. We're already working on this. So that in the future, rather than installing, a router in your home and then using it as your gateway to the internet, you will install this router in your home and it will actually be your territory on the internet without you even knowing much about what that means. So now what happens is I install an app on my phone, say a text messaging app, okay? I install the app and I SSO, I use single sign-on to sign into that app. So instead of like signing in with Google or signing in with Facebook, I'll sign in with my embassy, right? So I will authenticate to that application with my embassy. And as a result, the embassy can then actually install, configure, and run any server-side software that is necessary for that application to function without my knowledge. Well, not without my knowledge. It'll be a little prompt that says, hey, you've installed blah messaging app. And in order for blah messaging app to work, we have to install, configure, and run server-side software on your router at home, on your server at home. Do you agree? So you click yes. And then basically you just log in with a user and password like you would for any other app, and you're off and text messaging your friends. And what you don't realize is that the entire model is completely disintermediated, that your phone is talking to your server, which is federating on P2P and federated networks with other people's servers. And you're just chatting away like you would today. You have no knowledge that there are no trusted third parties involved. That is not a pipe dream. We can create that. We have created a portion of that already. There's still a ways to go, but we know how to do what I just described.
And it's so fascinating, Matt, that you said that, because I actually tweeted this out the other day, the bit about responsibility, the bit about an individual. And that, honestly, that's the thing that I get hung up on, right? Is that at the end of the day, people still have to take that last step. You could hold them the hand to the bridge, but they still need to walk over the bridge, right? And I tweeted this out. I said, And Gigi actually retweeted it as well. It said, without personal responsibility, the Bitcoin revolution is impossible, right? So without people taking that slight little bit of responsibility, right? In this case, it's literally as simple as plugging in a router that has its own server installed. And the reality is, and here's one of the trade-offs, it is going to be slightly less inconvenient than slightly less inconvenient than a centralized system.
It's a lot today, okay? Like doing it properly today, like holding your own keys, using your own node, that's hard, right? It is hard. And I'm using that term relatively, right? Like it's pretty dang easy. Like we've made it pretty easy to run your own Bitcoin node, run your own Lightning node, and actually use them in a non-custodial, non-trusted, totally sovereign way. But it is still hard by most people's standards, okay? We are not at the grandma/child phase of adoption of this technology yet. And we need to be honest about that today it requires a significantly more effort to do it in the right way than it does to do it in the easy, wrong way. And our job as a company, as well as many others in the Bitcoin and sovereign technology space, our job is to reach what we call convenience parity. We need to get it just as convenient. So that way in the future, people aren't assessing these complex trade-offs of time and effort and cost. All they're assessing is, do I want to do my computing in the 100% easy way where I'm in control of nothing, where I own nothing and I'm really happy? Or do I want to do it in the 99.9% convenient way where there are no risks, no counterparty trade-off, right? And we think that everyone goes for the right hand in that scenario, but we're not even close to that scenario yet.
Yeah, but I do believe though we will get there. I think we'll get there in a decade or 2 decades or so. I want to ask a question from the audience, and then we'll go to my last question. First of all, Paul says, Matt, could we use it for higher data applications like storing security cam files?
Today, no. I mean, so you can store files on your embassy today. We have both file browser, and Nextcloud is also around the corner that will allow you to just take any old file and upload it to your embassy and store it. Now, if you're talking about the ability to use those security cam files, either for live streaming purposes or a convenient way to view those files, that is not currently available. But here is what is on our roadmap. Okay, we Start9, and you asked about this earlier, Nico, too, about the sort of 10-year vision here. This train does not stop at messaging and data storage and Bitcoin nodes, all right? Ultimately, what's happening to planet Earth right now, the mega technological shift that's taking place under the surface is internet-connected devices, okay? The world is getting really smart. And what I mean by that is that devices are not dumb, right? They are internet connected. That's what's meant by IoT. It's what's meant by a smart device, is that it is connected to the internet, connected to other devices and sources of data in your life such that you can be served by these devices in the most efficient manner possible. We're talking about the robot future, okay? Where everything in your home is smart, everything in the world is connected. That is what's actually at stake here, because that's where we're going. That's the future of humanity, is an incredibly connected and smart world. Whether you like it or not, that's where we're going. There are only 2 possible ways that future can exist. Either one, every device in your home and that surrounds you in your life is connected to the mothership, third-party clouds, where your lights can be turned off if you're non-compliant with your carbon usage that month, where your money can be cut off, where there's literally a guard at your door, which brings a whole new, meaning to lockdowns, where you physically cannot exit your house because the locks are controlled by Google, right? That is sort of the one possible future and dystopian future, I would argue, of a robot future. And it is the future that is the centerpiece of every big tech boardroom in the world right now. This is what they are trying to do. This is the end game. All the free apps that they give you on your phone, and use this for free and use this for free, it's all just to get you into their ecosystem, to create you a dependency on their ecosystem so that they can start to put devices into your home. And this isn't some like conspiracy malicious thing where they're like, ooh, once we get the devices in our home, we'll be able to like lock them in their home and control them. This is about a general recognition that this is where the money is to be made, that people want a smart world. They want everything to be connected and to serve them. And so that's what these boards are pushing for, to dominate the home. They want to own your smart home. What we are doing at Start9, and I would argue we might be the only ones actually thinking like this and developing our technologies to accommodate this, right? We're not thinking about this as like a Bitcoin node, right? We're not doing this in a naive, contained way. What we are trying to enable, why we might not make smart devices, we might make smart devices, we'll see where this goes, but what we are trying to enable is a IoT robot future where all of these smart things in your life are actually networked together on a private segment of the internet, where it is your private internet, your private fleet of robots that are serving you, so that I can go to the other side of the world and open up my phone and watch live video footage of my home on the other side of the world, push a few buttons, turn on my oven and cook a meal, et cetera, from the other side of the world, without a single person on earth even knowing that that interaction is taking place, let alone being able to stop it, right? Private sovereign control over physical devices in the real world is our mission. That's what we are actually trying to enable and accomplish.
Gotcha, man. That has me super excited, but I know me and you are hung up on the same question. Are people actually going to take responsibility?
Yeah.
So that leads me to the last question, I think the most fascinating one, and I think that perhaps people have come to this realization. It's what we cover a lot on Simply Bitcoin. We cover the separation of money and state. We do say we are your number one resource for the Bitcoin revolution. At the end of the day, what you are saying takes a tremendous amount of power away from governments, okay? They're being disintermediated two ways right now. Money, which is atrocious, and information, which is what we're living through, which is why you have futile attempts, by Biden administration just tried to release a ministry of truth, right? So it's like, what is the government reaction to this? They're definitely going to push for, the CBDC. You mentioned it a little bit, the you own nothing, be happy type of route. What is your expectation? And of course, you're betting your future on this, running this company. Where do you think the pushback will be?
I expect enormous pushback. I was on with Marty on Tales from the Crypt a while back. We went for 3 hours. So if you're interested in the long-winded version of this answer, go check that out. But I think this is going to be a multi-decade process. On that show, I estimated 70 years, and that was a year ago. So we're at 69 now. And what I mean by that is the point at which we will be able to sort of declare victory over this movement. I think it's a 70-year process. And the reason for that is because we're talking about, in the time frame of history, from a mega political, shift like this, they just don't happen overnight, right? There might be flare-ups where things speed up and then slow down, but ultimately it's going to take a long time to complete this transition. And the reason I think that is because it requires children, right? The Start9 loves it. I love it when somebody in their 60s or 70s finds us, loves us, promotes us, uses our product, and gets what we are trying to accomplish. I consider that completely icing on the cake. I am in no way, shape, or form targeting these people. I do not believe that they are important to what we are trying to accomplish or to the future of this world, that it's all about the next 2 to 3 generations. That's what we have to win here, right? So when people talk about hyper Bitcoinization and sort of, winning this in a few years, I think they might be forgetting that the vast majority of the world, and especially the people in power, the incumbents, are not going to relinquish that power simply, right? Even out of just inertia, right? It's not just that they don't want this different world. It's just that they don't know how to function in it. That it's so foreign, it's so different, that they're not going to accept it. And I believe that the incompetence, stupidity, and malice of many of these people are such that they would rather burn the house down than see their world that they know and love and have come to rule dissipate before their eyes. So I expect enormous pushback. I do expect a reasonable degree of tragedy and suffering along the way. I also think that the future we are building is the inevitable one. I don't like to do pure historical determinism. Like, I don't think that it has to happen. We could totally go down a horrible dystopian path that leads to 1,000 years. But I think it is far more likely that the passion and intelligence and, quite frankly, adherence to reality that is behind our approach will win, primarily because the other approach is going to eat itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is how, I like this from Foundation. The Foundation series sort of fixates on this a little bit. It's the goal is to darkness. It's to minimize the suffering. It's not to eliminate it. Like, it's gonna be bad. There's gonna be a battle here. The question is how can we shorten it? How can we make it as brief and painless as possible? And in my mind, that's still 70 years. And the answer to that is education of children, predominantly targeting people under the age of, we'll call it 30, maybe 40, predominantly targeting those people and their children. And then, secondly, progressing the products, the technology to reach convenience parity, right? Because ultimately, we don't need people to buy into the ideology. We need them to buy into the technology. Yes. And they buy into the technology if the technology, quite frankly, is good and works. So at Start9, we are leaning more on that side. We're more about like making the tech as awesome and usable as possible so that we can get as many people to jump ship and exit the existing system as quickly as possible. But we are also very interested in the educational track, equally important. We just don't focus on that because it's not our core competency. We're a bunch of freaking engineers, not educators.
Absolutely. And Matt, you absolutely blew my mind. And I agree with you. This is a peaceful revolution. This is about winning over the hearts and mind, convincing them, personal responsibility, freedom. That's what it's all about. And this is why I always push this upon you guys, the audience. It's up to you. You have to take responsibility. You have to push this future that you want. Doesn't require coercion. We have much better incentives than they do. And there's another thing that I want to, and this coincidentally, this just connected about the opposing system, the dystopian future imploding itself. Look at Europe. They chose an ideology that was not based on reality, and that's had catastrophic consequences. But the bright side of that, right? There's a silver lining, is that in the process of those catastrophic consequences, hopefully it wakes up enough people where they realize, okay, maybe that was a bad idea. And I've also tweeted this out many, many months ago. I said, hey, it's not winning that worries me. It's the transition. And I think that's what keeps Bitcoiners up at night, because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. If it happens too quickly, I can tell you this for sure. They will 6102 order 100%, right? If it happens gradually, that's a little bit better in my opinion. 70 years, hopefully we all live that long to see that. But anyways, I know.
Exercise and eat right. You'll make it.
I'll be 100, literally. Yeah. Anyways, Opti
technology is going up, man.
I know. Anyway,
20.
Woo. Anyways, Opti, I know you got some awesome questions for the culture for Matt. Let's check it out. Daily Culture. Brought to you by SwanBitcoin.com. Swan is the best way to build your Bitcoin stack with automated Bitcoin savings plans and instant purchases, serving clients of any size from $10 to $10 million. Swan incentivizes self-custody, and they also incentivize dollar cost averaging. Spread out that risk. Visit SwanBitcoin.com today. All right, guys, before we get to the culture, I want to give a special shout out to Pacific Bitcoin. It's November 10th through the 11th. Speaker list includes Corey Clipston, Lynn Alden, Jeff Booth, Dylan LeClaire, Eric Cosson, Mark Moss, Alex Gladstein, Dr. Jeff Ross, Parker Lewis. That's right. Somehow Nico's on there as well. You can take advantage of the promo code SIMPLY to get a discount on your Pacific Bitcoin tickets. Opti, what do you have for us today?
All right, guys. So, I mean, first of all, like, I've been on the fence for a Start9 now, and now I really want to get one because you sold me on it. A few of my friends have been telling me to get one, and now I need to get one. Anyways, I saw this tweet, and I've been really big on the idea of stand up for the things and the ideas that you believe in. And I saw this tweet, and honestly, I thought it should got more likes. So idealism and realism are not in conflict so long as your ideals are based in reality. And my just question to you is, because I believe Bitcoin is one of the most important ideas, but my question to you is, have you always been this based, or has Bitcoin changed you and changed your ideas?
I'm the same person I was when I was like 4. I mean, I've learned a lot. I even went through phases where I really had to like dive into the other side and give it a try and make sure that, you know, it resulted. Yeah, I've done the thought experiments. I've done the actual life experiences. But ultimately, I have always been like this. I just didn't understand it until I was older, which is that it bothered me that people always talked about idealism as an insult. They would say something like, well, you're just saying like this ideal world, the way that it should be. And what they mean by that is that it can't be, right? It should be, but it can't be. And so you're naive, you're an idiot. And the reason for that is because the majority of people's ideals, like what they hold as principles or as moral ideals, are actually contradictory with reality and human nature, right? Like they hold some moral ideal to be true on a whim, on a belief. They just say like, well, it should be like that. And they actually can't derive that back to reality. It's just a belief. It's just something that they made up or something that they were told. And so what that does is it makes them believe that anything you believe in, any ideal, is outside of reality because their ideals are outside of reality. Well, I have made very conscious and prolonged efforts to prove to myself that the things I believe, my ideals, are based in reality, that I can derive them back to sensory and perceptual input, and that they're practical and achievable. Even if they're very far from the reality that we experience today, they are possible. And so I proudly sort of advertise myself as an idealist. I don't settle for half measures and partial solutions. Like I want the real solution, the permanent, real good solution. And I check myself in that process to make sure that that solution is in fact based in reality and possible. So I'm an idealist, realist, which is rare. It's a very rare thing to be.
Man, I love it. I've been telling everyone that I've been the same person forever, and it's only been because of Bitcoin that I can actualize my ideals. So I agree 100% with you. And this next one, we have more the daily culture into or from the daily fails, and I know we still occasionally get shitcoiners on here. So as you can see on the screen, guys, I took this from Start9 Labs, and you said when incumbent says Web 3.0, they really mean the most nightmarish versions of Web 2.0, and I think we already covered this a little bit on the news section, but if there's someone out there that is still bullish on Web 3.0, could you maybe dissuade them off the cliff a little bit so that they do not get more wrecked right now? I know you kind of did earlier. I heard it earlier, but I'm sure you could just add a little more sauce in there so someone doesn't continue down the shitcoinery pathway.
Yeah, the term Web 3.0 has become entirely perverted. Even when that tweet, the one that you just screenshotted there, was made, at the time, at least in my mind, there was still an opportunity to use that term because it had popular awareness, right? Like it's nice to use things that are already sort of out there to mean something positive, right? To say like, yeah, we're building Web 3.0 and here's what we mean when we say that. We lost that battle wholeheartedly. Web 3.0 is a dead term, right? I do not believe it can be salvaged, which is why Jack Dorsey and them are saying Web 5.0. They're like, we're so far from 3, we're just going to skip 4 and go to 5, because there's an acknowledgement that 3 is dead. I would argue that 5, as they're pitching it, might also be dead. But time will tell how that project evolves. So we don't say this anymore. Start9 is not a Web 3.0 company, because what Web 3.0 means, colloquially, what it has come to mean in venture capital circles and in consumer circles and corporate circles, is essentially financial scams on a blockchain. That's basically what it has come to mean. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that uses the phrase Web 3.0 is a financial scam on a blockchain. It's just that is my understanding of that word now basically means we're going to use some underlying blockchain, which doesn't solve any issues in the first place, to create derivative assets that have no value from the thing that has no purpose, and then slap an enormous amount of marketing on it so that people sort of gamble and we can profit from that naivety and recklessness. That's what Web 3.0 sounds like to me. And so we don't say it anymore. We have pivoted and, have stuck with, well, haven't pivoted, but we've sort of doubled down on our original kind of messaging, which is, disintermediated computing, sovereign computing, the removal of trust from software and hardware systems, and, censorship resistance, decentralization, like the core principles that are underlying the real technology that's going to revolutionize this planet.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I absolutely love it. This next one, it is a meme, but you guys did it on Start9 Labs. Be the Uncle Jim you wish to see in the world. And we did get a comment in the chat, and this is by our friend Loco, and he goes, curious question, would it be a bad practice for your trusted friends and family to connect your wallet to your node? Now, I know the answer, but to those that are wondering, maybe you could shed a little light on the people.
Interesting. I'm curious what you think the answer is here. I do not believe, and we are not building our technology in such a way that forbids trust. Okay, trust is okay, so long as the person you're trusting is trustworthy, meaning you know them, you have experience with them. In fact, I would argue that human society would be difficult to function. It would be hard to imagine a functioning society where you trusted no one. Okay, maybe at some, but this is what I would consider to be the negative form of idealism. I don't see that world ever happening. Humans are social, trusting, loving beings within their communities and their families. Okay, so like I trust my wife, I trust my partners at Start9, and if I didn't, I would be so inefficient that I wouldn't be able to move, right? Because if I didn't trust them to do anything ever, then I would have to do everything myself, and that's just not practical. So I don't know exactly where the line is. I think it's at close friends, like the inner circle of your life. It is okay to share computing resources and stuff like that if you trust those people not to abuse them or censor you or delete you or spy on you, right? Like I'm okay with that. And so I don't think that there's going to be a future where every person in this world is running their own server. I do think that we will see a highly fractured future where small families, small organizations, and maybe a bunch of individuals are all running their own servers. So it's okay in my thinking of this problem that if you have a close friend or family member who's running a Bitcoin node and they give you permissioned access to that node, that it's okay to connect your wallet to their node because you trust them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I don't know where the line is, guys, but definitely make sure that you trust the person in real life. Like you got to have a certain amount of trust with the person before you connect to their node. And then, how do you say this? Like, export your reliability and trust to strangers. I would definitely not do that.
That's the point. When we talk about disrupting trust, it's that you shouldn't trust people that you have no reason to trust. And in fact, who have every incentive to violate that trust, which is the current arrangement today, right? Like, we are trusting corporations and governments that we have every reason to believe, not just based on history and empirical evidence, but based on the incentive structures themselves. If you understand them, we have every reason to believe that they're going to violate that trust. That's the kind of trust that we're disrupting. You want to trust your significant other or parents, go for it. There's no problem with that. In fact, we encourage it.
Beautiful. I love it. I have a few more stuff, but I think I want to end on this one so we can get to the memes and keep this show a little quiet, or a little shorter, I mean. I've been on this theme lately as like, man, how far down the dystopian rabbit hole have we gone? Like, how far down science fiction works have we gone in real life? And it's the parallels are so almost terrifying at times. And I found this tweet, and I think this sums it up really well. And you go, Ayn Rand described Atlas Shrugged as the day after tomorrow, and now it's just tomorrow. And I love my friend's comment, Skeef, right here. He goes, her characters are not realistic. And is when I hear that, did you either read it correctly or you're completely disconnected from reality? So can you just maybe shed some light, like, not necessarily on the parallels, but man, is Atlas Shrugged becoming a documentary now? Like, it seems like we have gotten to such a point where if you aren't reading Atlas Shrugged, you aren't going to know what's going on in the world.
There is a documentary about Atlas Shrugged becoming a documentary that was launched in 2015.
Amazing.
So, it's fairly well done. There are parallels, but it's playing out slightly differently than she imagined, actually, right? Because technology has taken a wild turn since the 1950s with the internet and with Bitcoin. Like, I'm thoroughly convinced that Ayn Rand would have been like a hardline Bitcoiner today, whereas in the past she was a hardline, gold-backed dollar advocate, which was probably the best possible thing you could have been at that time and point in technological progression. So I do believe it is tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow anymore. Again, history moves slow. Everyone always thinks, including myself sometimes, that things are just around the corner. But these mega political shifts take place over the course of decades, if not centuries. And so I think she thought everything was going to fall apart in like the 70s and 80s. And in a way it did. The world is very different now than it was then. But it also had a way of perpetuating. Like, in other words, the potential energy is just growing and growing and growing. And we keep being like, it's gotta pop. Like, it's gotta pop. You can't just keep living this lie, this false reality forever, but it can go a lot longer than you think. And so the second difference is that rather than a bunch of sort of righteous, independent creators and builders openly abandoning society, of just being like, I will not contribute my productive energy to society, and I'm going to like go over here to this physical place in the Rockies called Galt's Gulch and contribute my physical production there and abandon you until your world falls apart, and then we'll come back and do it the right way. What's happening is that this exit has taken a different form, and it's in the form of Bitcoin and sovereign computing, right? Exiting has not been a physical thing. It's been a digital thing, right? Like, people aren't quitting and moving to another place in the world. They're quitting their fiat jobs and joining these new companies and organizations that are building alternative structures. So in a way, it's sort of exactly what she predicted, but only analogously, right? Only metaphorically. But yeah, I mean, the best of us are gradually striking, not by not working, but by working on things that do not contribute to the existing corrupt, fracturing system, which is expediting its collapse. And we will be blamed for that. Bitcoin, sovereign computing, and those who contribute to those endeavors will be blamed for the collapse of the system. They will claim that if it wasn't for us, their disconnected utopian ideals would have flourished.
I absolutely love it. Dude, preach, man.
Preach, man.
And here, just this last, we don't even have to comment on it because I think you said enough in the tweet itself, and we can move to the meme review. But I've been echoing this idea as for the last couple of weeks, and I think you just said it perfectly in this tweet. And you said, don't ask permission or beg for forgiveness. Do the right thing and own it. And I think you just, we can put the pin on what you just said, because I've been saying for a while, be the shining example of what it means to be a sovereign individual, and people will want to know how you got there and what you do and why you do what you do. And I think you just summarized it so well, man. I absolutely love it. And if you want to add 2 sats before we move on, by all means.
Yeah, I mean, this was a play on the old adage of, better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. And I'm just like, fuck that. Yeah, I agree. It is better to beg forgiveness than ask permission, but there is a third option, right? Which is, don't ask permission, don't beg forgiveness, just do what you know to be the right thing, and then don't apologize for it. Don't beg forgiveness, just fucking do it and own it, and that's what I do. I try to do it in a way that is not going to endanger me in any sort of acute way, but I do the right thing, and I don't mince words about it.
Air horns, Opti.
I was gonna do the air horns anyway.
All right. Let's go to the meme review.
Hold on.
Daily meme review.
Brought to you by Bitbox 2 Bitcoin Only Edition, a hardware wallet by Shift Crypto. Crypto like cryptography. It's secure, it's open source, and it's so easy your mom can set it up. Self-custody is the revolution, and the Bitbox makes it simple. Do not leave your Bitcoin on an exchange. Order a Bitbox today.
All right, I didn't bring it up, Nico, because I saw Matt wanted to say something. If you want to add a few more things, I saw we cut you off, bro.
So it was about the air horn. All right. So I made a prototype of an app that needs some work, before it's going to be viable. But basically, what it'll do is it's a very, very simple app where somebody who's speaking or performing, right, like on stage or on a street corner or whatever, can just put up a QR code. This would be like their LNURL, kind of QR code, and you could scan it with this app that I'm talking about. And then anytime they said or did something that you appreciated, instead of clapping, right, you would just tap this button, an air horn, but every tap of the button is sending them like 100 sats.
Well, send us the prototype.
You can literally just go to these performances and like imagine somebody's birthday party as like a tradition. You just go into the birthday party, and then like after singing happy birthday, everybody just goes, and you're just flooding them with Bitcoin. So
amazing.
I have the prototype of this thing working. I don't know if people will like it or not, but it's a cool.
I will hit your DMs and we'll figure it out.
Of just a cool way to send people Bitcoin.
Let's go.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, Opti.
All right, Nico. This first one, I'm pretty sure it is safe for YouTube, but it's by @9 meme, and it goes #Bitcoin. And we got I'm not gonna say her name, but you know who she is. And it goes, take your Bitcoin out of the exchange.
God damn it, Opti.
All right, the next one is Bitcoin and Tacos, and it's Orange County Choppers. It goes, buy the dip. I already bought. Then buy again. It keeps dipping. Buy some more. I'm out of money. And you, I feel you, Bitcoin and Tacos. That's the vibe right now. And then this is by my buddy, Mr. Robar, at the Bitcoin Doctor, and he tagged us in this one. It goes, corporate media pretending to find inflation fixes. And it's Joe Byron picking up some pennies off the ground and showing it to the camera. Yes, those inflation fixes really be working. Another one that is definitely safe for YouTube, Nico. This is by Animal Glassworks, and it's #Bitcoin. He goes, oh, fuck, you're going to make me be greedy when others are fearful. There's Warren Buffett on another unnamed, sex worker on the internet.
Damn it, Opti. Why?
Dude,
bro?
we gotta get him in a little bit, man. It's for the culture, The next one is Lit Alden, and these last ones is us doubling or tripling down on the energy crises in Europe. And it goes, the smiling old man in pain. He goes, humanity has never before transitioned to a less dense energy source. And there's no punchline. It's just pain. And this other one, of course, guys, the memes sometimes are just words and not necessarily pictures. And this one's by Safety, and I absolutely love it. And he goes, the fiat generation grew up dreaming of flying cars and grew old dreaming of 24-hour electricity. But remember, there is no inflation. Yes, they aren't robbing your future. And then this one, it's not even a Bitcoiner, but it's on the news of EU will propose a cap on Russian gas, and it's the EU soon back in the Stone Age, just trying to get warm with sticks and stones. And then the last one, another meme. Of course, I curated Matt's timeline, and anytime I can dunk on my Rhodes thesis, I have to do it. So the idea of paid express lanes on public highways is an abomination and proof that they are laughing at us. We told them taxes were for the roads, and then we used the money to build paid express lanes. Oof. Get him. Anyways, guys, this is a very special meme review score, guys. Nico, full screen me because I got some unsanctioned Simply Bitcoin merch. Check it out.
Oof.
Let's go.
Oof.
All right, hit me in the chat, guys. Let me know what you think about the orange Simply Bitcoin hoodie. We'll see what happens, guys. But anyways, put your scores in the chat while they give us their scores.
Yeah, I'm going to give it this, put your score in the chat, guys. We will read it on the meme review. I'm going to give it this in the bag HDMI cable that I'm going to use for a new camera that will be here in a week. Anyways, Matt, what would you give those memes?
I have almost nothing around me, but I coincidentally do have this candle that says burn for bull markets.
Oh.
And those memes were good enough to maybe spark a new bull market. So.
Let's go,
bro. That is a very, very dope score. Anyways, guys, don't forget to join Simply Bitcoin's Telegram chat. That's where you could link us Bitcoin memes to review. You got to go to www.t.me/the Simply Bitcoin channel. Check out Simply Bitcoin's blog, www.simplybitcoin.news. We drop nukes. All right, it's the written version of the show. Definitely want to go check it out. But anyways, we got a software release or a hardware release.
Hold on, Nico. Let's get this meme score right here.
Dude,
we got this.
Forgot.
The memes get some KY jelly.
All right, Andrew says my meme score is a pair of sunglasses to look at the Simply Bitcoin hoodie. Okay. Mr. Robot, hold on, listen, Mr. Robot. I rate memes 1 stack of firewood for the EU. I give those memes 1 backyard garden. Paul, I give those memes a BMW branded water bottle. Broke haters. All right, last one by Max. I give the memes chakra cones. Wow. All right. Awesome scores. Let's get to the hardware release / software release. Bitcoin software release brought to you by CipherSafe. Don't be that person that stores their Bitcoin seed on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage, dog attacks, everything. Your seed can be eaten by dogs or cats or animals if you store it on paper. You definitely want to store your seed on steel, and there's no better place to do it than the CipherSafe. Get yourself a Cipher wheel or a Cipher grid today. Visit ciphersafe.io.
All right, guys. Well, we just doubled down on the software / hardware release today, and get yourself on the pre-sale for the Embassy Pro 2, because I know you guys are getting bullish out there. I think I might actually get myself on this.
I bought one pre-sale at the Bitcoin conference. Matt pitched it to me. I was like, I really want that shirt. He's like, you need to buy it. I was like, you know what? All right. He's like, it's He's like, it's faster than your computer. I was like, all right, fine. A Bitcoin node that's faster than my computer. I'm down.
Right. Down bad.
Yeah, so let me give you the short and long of this thing, okay? This is the next generation of personal servers and Bitcoin nodes. This is not a Raspberry Pi. This is an Intel i7 4.9 gigahertz, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte NVMe supercomputer for people who want the rocket ship, right? Individuals who just want the biggest and baddest, as well as content creators and organizations. So whether it's a church, a school, a meetup group, or just your friends and family, or you're a content creator who wants to reach large audiences, you have to have something like this. The Raspberry Pi just simply isn't going to be able to handle the kind of compute, memory, and disk needs that a Raspberry Pi can accommodate. So this is a bigger, badder Embassy. It comes with a new version of Embassy OS that is based on a Linux distro called Pure OS that disables the Intel management engine by default. So there is a large and very well-known vulnerability with Intel computers that are essentially backdoored by Intel. And this is due to the Intel management engine firmware that lies just underneath the upper level operating system. We disable it here, right? We have eliminated Intel's backdoor capabilities with the Embassy Pro. So not only is it a badass supercomputer that's going to enable you to run any variety of self-hosted open source software for both you and your family and your community and your followers, but it is doing it in arguably the most private, sovereign way that any personal server has ever done. So we've been working on this for a year. We've partnered with Purism, the company, to bring this to market because we are not, our core competency is not hardware. They are great at hardware. So it's a great partnership for Start9, and this will be the standard in sovereign computing for the foreseeable future. It's going to be hard to beat something like this. So it's ready.
That bad boy has an i7 in there. I'm really definitely looking forward for it. But anyways, guys, I want to give a shout out to our awesome sponsor, RepresentLTD.com. Opti and I wear the hoodies every single day. I'm wearing the camo. Opti's wearing the orange pill shirt. It's stylish. It's comfortable. You can take advantage of the promo code down below to get 10% off. RepresentLTD.com. I also want to give a very special shout out to our awesome guests. Thank you for coming on the show, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Had a great time, just like last time. Anytime, man.
Where can people find you? And find out more about Start9.
So Start9.com is the best place to learn about Start9. We are coming out with a new website. Our old website's kind of techie looking. We're coming out with a really cool new one that'll help people to understand faster what we do. On Twitter, we are Start9 Labs. On Twitter, I am _Matt Hill _. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show, Matt. I'm going to, Opti's asking, we do have a Twitter Spaces live with Swan Bitcoin. If you want to join, you're more than welcome. Anyways, Matt, I'm going to put you backstage for a second. I'm going to wrap up the show. Guys, thank you so much for coming on or watching Simply Bitcoin. If you like the show, make sure to hit that like button. If you really find the show gave you value, make sure to subscribe. And of course, we will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay. What's the second best? There is no second best.